Aloha and welcome to this tutorial on the 5-step method for Praxis essays. Even though you only have 30 minutes to complete each essay on the Praxis, you should really take your time to organize your thoughts before writing about a topic. In fact, writing an essay for the Praxis exam really is a two-stage process. First, you need to decide what you want to say about a topic, and then second, you need to figure out how to say it. If your writing style isn't very clear, then your ideas won't really come across, no matter how brilliant they are. Good Praxis English is not only grammatical, but also very clear and concise writing. By using some basic principles, you should be able to express your ideas more clearly and effectively. There are really 4 principles for good essay writing. The first is control of your language. Writing that is grammatical, concise, direct, and persuasive usually displays the superior control of language that earns students top scores in the Praxis exams. The second is it's better to keep things simple. Perhaps the simple, most important thing to bear in mind when writing a Praxis essay is to keep everything super simple. Because you're aiming to pass this test and get it out of your life, there's no reason to be overly wordy or complex as you write your essay. Number 3, minor grammatical flaws won't kill you. Small mistakes are really bound to happen when working under any kind of pressure you face, so don't panic. Essay readers expect minor errors or mistakes even on the best essays, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't just avoid checking your work altogether. Proofreading is a very important part of writing Praxis essays. And the fourth point is to keep sight of your goal. Remember, your goal isn't to become a prize-winning rhetorical writer on this Praxis exam. Your goal is to simply write a solid essay and move on. So we're providing you with a 5-step method on how to really write a Praxis essay, and in particular, an argumentative essay. So the first step is to digest the issue. You want to read the prompt and get a sense of the scope of the issue. Note any ambiguous terms that may need defining, and also crystallize the issue in your mind. Step 2 is you want to develop points. Brainstorm arguments on both sides of the issue and decide which side you will support. Assess the specific prompt requirements and try to develop a basic thesis statement. Number 3 is organize. Create an outline of your essay, start with your best arguments, and think about how each argument will flow to your overall point. Step 4 is to write. Be direct. Use paragraphs to break up your essay and make it a bit easier to read. Make transitions linking related ideas, and try your best to finish your thoughts before your time runs out. Step 4 also is really the structure of a Praxis paragraph. Now, we think it's totally okay to actually develop a Praxis essay around a 5-paragraph method. It's a really excellent way to organize for the Praxis core essays. However, you might not get to 5 paragraphs. In fact, you might only get to 1 or 2 main points, but as long as they're sufficient to really develop your thesis. So, your first paragraph should include a short introduction, and you should also state your position, which is your thesis. Your middle paragraphs, as mentioned previously, may only be 1 or 2 or possibly 3 paragraphs, but they should always begin with a topic sentence related to your thesis, and they should provide specific examples, details, and maybe even experiences. Really explain why they're important and how they relate to your thesis and your overall point. And also, you want to end each paragraph, if possible, with a strong final sentence relating the ideas back to the thesis. You also want to have time to create a brief conclusion. You want to restate your position, especially in the argumentative essays, and drive your point home by answering, "So what? Who cares?" Answering that question can be really challenging, but can really strengthen and leave a lasting impression on the exam reviewers. All right, and step 5, proofread. Now, in this step, you should save enough time to really read your entire essay. And you should look for errors as you're reading your essay and try to correct them before your time is up. Okay, That is quite a bit of information, but I think it's time to really practice. So let's first, step 1, digest the issue. Here's a sample topic. The drawbacks to the use of nuclear power means that it is not a long-term solution to problem of meeting ever-increasing energy needs. So we first need to read the prompt and get a sense of the issue, and then we really need to crystallize that issue. So let's look at the prompt again. It looks like the author is really believing that nuclear power is not a suitable replacement for other forms of energy. Okay, and it looks like nuclear power really doesn't make sense as a long-term goal. So now that we've read the prompt and we have a sense of the issue and we really know our keywords, our nuclear power, drawbacks, and not being able to meet long-term solutions, let's move on. Okay, now we really want to we want to develop points. So here, I'm just going to open this up. Okay. Now let's talk about developing points a little bit. So let's make a couple different connections here. So people who maybe are pro-nuclear power might say that it's inexpensive compared to other energy forms. All right, a couple other ideas might be maybe fossil fuels will be depleted because we know that oil is slowly running out. And then maybe like solar power or other types of sources like solar power are still pretty pricey. Okay, so these are just a couple ideas in terms of why nuclear power could be a really good thing. Okay, so now let's look at the other side of things and why people might be against nuclear power. So maybe how about radioactive products are deadly? And we can think of a couple maybe different natural disasters that happened. For example, the natural disaster in Japan and all of the radioactive fallout there. There could be safer alternatives like nuclear maybe fusion. And then maybe another idea is why not use solar power? You know, it's already in use and it's effective, and maybe it'll become cheaper. So possibly cheaper in the future. Okay, so we need to brainstorm both sides of the argument, which we've done, and we can go back and assess the prompt if we want, which is about the drawbacks of the use of nuclear power. Now I think we need to work on developing a thesis. And one way we could develop a thesis is to perhaps consider choosing a side. Now, for the purposes of this particular assignment, I am feeling like I can write a little bit more about why nuclear power wouldn't be a good thing versus why nuclear power would be a good thing. However, your experiences might be different based on the knowledge that you have pertaining to a topic. Now, I do want to note that there's no right or wrong decision. You can absolutely go with why nuclear power is a great thing and talk about all of the great things and the benefits of it. But in this example, I'm going to choose to go against nuclear power and kind of follow the prompt a little bit, which is also talking about the negatives or the drawbacks of nuclear power. So next, I need to develop a thesis statement. So here I can maybe create a thesis statement that says something like, after close examination, of the issues pertaining to nuclear power, or nuclear energy rather, it becomes clear that using nuclear energy is maybe more problematic and dangerous than other forms of, let's see, energy production. Okay, let me just pull this up a little bit here. Okay, so this is kind of my brainstorm of a thesis statement, and I'm going to try and use this to develop out my essay further. So let's go back and return to our presentation here. 1 second. Okay, and we will continue forward. All right, so the next step is to organize, and we need to really kind of talk about organization, and really in organizing things, we're really starting to just list bullet points of, you know, the side that we've chosen. So in creating an outline, I think you should just really work on creating bullet points based on things that you can write about in terms of your topic. So I'm going to open this up again, and let's just work on brainstorming and listing a couple bullet points here. So, okay, so, you know, my argument is that nuclear power is not a viable alternative to other sources of energy because, let's list a couple things. I think number one is the radioactiveness. Radioactive, leaking to environment maybe could be one. All right, the next thing is, you know, the accidents that have happened can be maybe catastrophic, or can be, yeah, let's say catastrophic. And we can do, let's say, like examples of different places. Okay, maybe I can list like 3 Mile Island, and I'll just put Japan at the moment. All right, let's see. How about maybe some others could be more research into solar power and how to bring down costs could be an option. Maybe solar powered homes and cars that can run on biofuel might be another alternative for perhaps long-term energy. And maybe energy companies aren't spending enough money on energy alternatives. So these are just a couple bullet points, and you know, I think I'm really going to go with these 3 because I think I can say a lot about these 3 points. So I'm going to continue on and really try and develop out these 3 points in the next part of my writing process. Okay, so let's go back to my PowerPoint here. All right, awesome. Next, so we want to really start to write, and based on those 3 points, I really am starting to develop out my thoughts and write down whatever I can. The key point to writing is to be direct, to be simple, to use paragraphs. And remember, we talked about the first paragraph as the introduction paragraph. That should include the thesis statement. The middle paragraphs will include my 3 points that I've brainstormed out just in the previous slide, and then I should include some type of conclusion at the very end of my essay. This is an example of an introduction that I've created based on my writing as fast as I can. I do want to encourage you to write on your computer versus writing everything down on paper, because it can really take a long time to transcribe everything over from your notes onto your computer screen. But let's look at this introduction paragraph first. At first glance, nuclear energy may seem to be the power source for the future. It is relatively inexpensive, it doesn't produce smoke, and its fuel supply is virtually inexhaustible. However, a close examination of the issue reveals that nuclear energy is more problematic and dangerous than any form of energy production, making it a poor power source for the future. Okay, so I tweaked my thesis statement a little bit based on the thesis statement I had kind of drafted at the beginning, and I've started my main point here, I think my strongest point. And so a main reason that nuclear energy is undesirable is the problem of radioactive waste storage, and then I continue on with why it's really problematic and quite dangerous for the environment. And unfortunately, I didn't have room to show you my other writing. Let's go to step 5 now, proofreading. Proofreading is so vital, and I do want to note 2 things. Contractions aren't generally used in formal academic writing, so after reading this paragraph, I do note that I want to change this contraction to something that says maybe like does not. And another thing that I want to do is that there's not just one issue, there's actually multiple issues, so I would like to change this to a plural. And so just reading it out loud, it's amazing how much you can catch the errors in your writing and try and strengthen your writing. So that is pretty much it for the Praxis Argumentative essay. I hope this has been helpful, and I wish you the best of luck in developing your essays.